brief moment. Don't read chat. They're going to be annoying. Do you feel like your lifting changed since Dr. Mike? I focus on eccentrics a lot more and making sure that it's definitely a slower eccentric when I'm working out.
Developer/journalist Mobar about Stellar Blade. You see, the gamer lads here see Stellar Blade's character designs as a political statement, one running counter to their characterization of how the so-called woke mob is trying to ruin games with diversity and ugliness and so on. So Stellar Blade to them represents a pushback against a perceived Puritan attempt to remove all the attractive sexy characters from video games. Except, I am old enough to remember all the way back to 1 year ago, when Baldur's Gate 3 came out. Baldur's Gate 3, developed by Larian Studios, is the third installment of the Baldur's Gate series and has been a massive commercial and critical success. It's sold more than 10 million copies, it's one of the highest rated games of all time on Metacritic, it won the Game of the Year award at the Golden Joystick Awards, the Game Awards, the British Academy Game Awards, and the Game Developers' Choice Awards. It was also named as Game of the Year by various gaming journalism outlets, such as GameSpot, GamesRadar, PC Gamer, Screen Rant, and many others.
That's the funniest thing, that they have no answer to Baldur's Gate 3 because it was literally a woke nightmare, okay, from their perspective. But it doesn't really matter because Baldur's Gate was successful. It was a real gamer's game, which is precisely the reason why this omega gay game, this super pro trans game, didn't actually invoke the same level of outrage. Because these guys will look to bad games, okay, that are hastily put together by these corporations that just want to serve fucking slop, and will say, oh, these games suck because of woke. No, those games don't suck because of woke, dumbass. Those games suck because corporations are hyper focusing on farming people as hard as they possibly can with nostalgia and all this other nonsense without actually offering any sort of like artistic integrity or artistic vision. Okay? That's it. When a game sucks, oh, it's because of woke. When a game is good, it's, oh, because they defeated woke. It's a very simple method. Ironically enough, there are a million different examples of video games that were seemingly woke on arrival, that these gamers, and not just like video games, but TV shows too, were seemingly woke on arrival, but actually got major box office success and real audiences that all of a sudden turned into anti-woke games. There are so many of these dipshits out there. There are so many fucking assholes out there who literally don't even delete their former videos. Okay? They don't even delete the old videos. They'll farm it, claiming that like something is going to be woke and it's going to be gay and it's going to suck. And then when people love it, they're like, oh, it's actually because it's not woke. And it's ironic because these are the people who say, why are you making everything political? They are the ones who make everything fucking political and unbearable.
Game developers and game journalists absolutely love Baldur's Gate 3. And Baldur's Gate 3 is horny as hell. To start with, I don't even know if I can show you the character creator from Baldur's Gate 3, but it's got options, let's say. Like, foreskin options. I myself have been playing through Baldur's Gate 3 recently and having a grand old time with it, playing a fancy little gnome bard, but I haven't really been pursuing the romantic or sexual options, and as such I didn't really have an idea of the extent of it. So instead I had to click through the IGN YouTube upload of the romance scenes in the game, which is more than 2 hours long, by the way, and I was red-faced and scandalized clicking through some of this. They do it. You see their bits. And there's everything. There's naked demon ladies and tentacled squid men. I think someone had it off with a bear at one point. They are going for it in Baldur's Gate, apparently. So we've got a seemingly extremely wide variety of romance options, and you can design your character to look however you like, be as attractive or unattractive as you want to be, and your party of conventionally attractive companions can be dressed, or undressed, or romanced by you, and all this raises a question, doesn't it? If so-called woke Western game developers and Puritan journalists supposedly hate sex and sexiness and attractiveness so much, why was this veritable orgy of a game so beloved by them? This would be the exact sort of thing that they're supposed to hate, right? But they think it's great, clearly, so what's going on here then? To attempt to answer this, let's first see if we can try to find any examples of any game developers or journalists actually being mad about Stellar Blade. As it turns out, Mark Kern's call for examples of Stellar Blade meltdowns netted one singular potential lead. A Twitter user replied to Kern on the 30th of March saying, "Take a look at IGN France." So let's take a look at IGN France. This page is a preview of Stellar Blade, talking about the pre-release demo of the game, which was posted on the 27th of March, in French, on the website IGN France. The writer of this article is on the whole very enthusiastic about nearly every aspect of Stellar Blade, praising the combat, the atmosphere, the soundtrack, and so on. The single exception is the main character, Eve's, character design, which he refers to as bland and likens to a doll sexualized by someone who has never seen a woman. Now, I think this second point here is not really fair for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I'd say that it's a bit hasty to so definitively judge Eve's character design based off of playing a demo which only shows a very small part of the game.
Also, it's a real person, and I was shocked when I found out it was a real person. And then, I had to do some investigations, okay? I had to personally investigate as a video game journalist who cares about the truth. And yes, it is a real Korean model.
Story, because it's possible that the full game would give some additional context to the character designs. It might not be all that likely, but it is possible, so I'd call this a bit of a rush to judgment, to be honest. The article compares Eve's design unfavourably to that of Bayonetta and 2B from Nier Automata, which are designs that I like and think work in the games that they're in, but you might not get the full context of why they work if you've only played a small demo segment of the game, right? So if I were writing this demo review, I'd probably have said something like, from what we can see in the demo, Eve seems bland, and hopefully the full game fleshes her out a bit more, something like that. Next, the doll sexualized by someone who's never seen a woman line could be read as a crack at the developers, and I don't really think it's all that fair to take a crack at the devs having not played the full game. I must say though, I don't think it actually is a serious crack at the devs, since the next paragraph of the review talks about the Korean model, Shin Jae-yoon, whose body scan served as the base for Eve's in-game model, so obviously the author knows the developers have seen a real woman. They're just describing Eve's design in a hyperbolic way. Still though, in isolation, this comes across as a bit prematurely rude, and IGN France apparently agreed with this because they later deleted the sexualized by someone who has never seen a woman sentence and apologized to the developers of Stellar Blade. So, you might be thinking, is that it? Is this the extent of the massive triggering that Mark Kern was so sure was going on? A single sentence from the French preview of the demo of Stellar Blade, which was otherwise very positive about the game and recommended it. Surely that's not going to be enough, right? If we're going to kick off a culture war battle about this, we're going to need a little more ammunition, aren't we? It's going to be hard to claim that journalists are trying to destroy Stellar Blade or something ridiculous like that if you only have one example and it's from someone who likes Stellar Blade. And it's going to be even harder to claim that journalists are biased against conventionally attractive characters in video games, considering the author of this piece spoke favourably about both Bayonetta and 2B from Nier Automata. They just called Eve's design.
What's so insane about this is that it goes back to what I say all the time. Narrative is more important than the truth. Biased political actors with an ideological purpose have basically made millions of people online, millions of gamers online, believe in this false notion that like devs actually fucking hate sexy women. Like, it is so frustrating. To draw a much larger point on this, it is so frustrating to see something so transparently incorrect. And yet it doesn't matter. No amount of evidence that you suggest to the contrary will shake people out of this fucking stupor. That's it.
Design bland by comparison. So surely this can't be enough, can it? Oh no. What's happened here then? It seems we've got some discourse to take a look at. So, where did all this come from? Well, later on the 30th of March, Mark Kern posted a tweet showing the offending sentence from the IGN France article, alongside a picture of the same woman mentioned in the article, who was scanned to provide Eve's character model, as well as a picture of the CEO of ShiftUp's wife, who also works at the company. So this is a classic gotcha, isn't it? The article says Eve is like a doll sexualized by someone who has never seen a woman, but look, here are some women who worked on the game, which contradicts that assessment. Very good. It is undercut somewhat, though, by the fact the IGN France article does talk about that Korean model in the very next paragraph, in fact, saying, quote, Shin Jae-yoon, the poor Korean model serving as the character's model, is lost under layers of clumsy plastic modifications that make her unrecognizable both in body and face. So this tweet from Mark Kern doesn't really work all that well on that front, does it? Eve was based on a real woman doesn't work as a retort to someone who acknowledges her design was based on a real woman, but dislikes it in part for not resembling that woman. In fact, this tweet only works as a retort if you specifically do not include the context that the IGN France article talks about Shin Jae-yoon, which Mark Kern, of course, does not. Now, many of these videos are just people reading out this tweet from Mark Kern and having a big old laugh about how IGN France doesn't know Eve is based on a real woman, which of course they do, because they talk about her.
For people asking, is this what Gamergate was like? Yes. One statement from an article from a dude who is outwardly positive towards a game, taken out of context, is enough for this onslaught of right-wing fucking grifters trying to farm desperate goddamn losers into clicking in their videos and getting angry about a thing that is not real. Gamergate was significantly worse than this because there's a whole litany of death threats associated with it too. But it's in the same vein, basically.
But these YouTubers don't know that because they didn't go and read the article. All they've seen of it is this one sentence from Mark Kern's tweet.
This tweet by Grum seems to be going viral currently. It's at over 50,000 likes and almost 2 million views after a day. And that because it embarrasses IGN and two of the arguments they made. It says, so IGN calls the Stellar Blade protagonist a sexualized doll and says the creator's never seen a living woman. And after that, showcasing the not real doll, as IGN called her, and then the creator's wife, who's also simultaneously an artist on the team. So apparently IGN was too lazy to do even the most basic research on the game before publishing such disrespectful statements.
And yes, so IGN calls Stellar Blade protagonist a sexualized doll and says the creator has never seen a living woman. So, as you see, IGN spreading lies, as of course the mainstream always does. And this is only going to get worse because of the left-wing lunatics that are out there.
Because once again, there is no research or nothing being shown. This is why people are calling this out right now. Because it's quite literally a model. This is quite literally a real-life person this is based on.
And I always find this to be kind of a stupid take because this is the model the game is based on, being motion captured here. It is very much based on real women.
I don't know what I'm angry at. I don't know what makes me more angry. The fact that this kind of shit is kickstarted by like one dumbass, or the fact that so many people are susceptible to this kind of framing and get duped by a singular tweet. I don't know. I just like it. It's so frustrating to see this.
Now, Kern's tweet was one way into this discourse. Some other YouTubers were instead reading out this article from boundingintocomics.com, which makes the same mistake as Kern, saying, further, while Eve herself may be a fictional character, her appearance is not, instead being based on a full one-to-one body scan of real-world South Korean model Shin Jae-yoon. In light of both their ignoring of these facts and their blatant attempt to insult Kim, that's the CEO of Shift up there, both Asola and IGN France soon found themselves facing a massive wave of backlash from the general public regarding their lack of journalistic integrity. Which, one, is very funny talking about journalistic integrity while accusing IGN France of ignoring something that they did in fact talk about, and two, is very funny claiming there was a massive wave of backlash from the general public about this. Yes, they were
This is why I gave up a long time ago trying to address some of the commonly held criticisms around someone like myself. I was wrong. Two mistakes I made in my career was one, openly admitting to being anti-capitalist, and two, ever thinking that people actually gave a singular shit about the truth. Because for people, it's not about a genuine interest or intellectual curiosity or genuine interest in understanding what the reality is. It's simply people that want to have their suspicions confirmed. That's why in so many fucking instances, you see people that are in this chat, okay, that will just straightforwardly refuse to listen to what I have to say. I'll literally be criticizing someone on screen, and in that very same moment, they'll be like, I bet you love this, Hasan. Yeah, I can tell you love this. I mean, we saw this during election night when so many people came in and were like, oh, I bet you're crying right now. And I was like, I'm not. I knew that this was going to happen. I said that this was going to happen. And I was already upset no matter who won. And yet people were just like, nah, you're seething. You're seething. Another example of this is like the famous case of when I was in Australia, having the time of my fucking life, hanging out with my friends, not being online. And because I responded to someone in my Discord as, I'm going to kill myself, all right, which is, you know, classic response online. The very same people that say that on a daily basis were like, oh, he's literally going to commit suicide. He's like actually exhibiting suicidal ideation. And when I corrected the people where I was like, I had no fucking clue this was happening online. I wasn't even online. People were like, nah, you're just lying. Nah, you're just lying, dog. Remember when you almost killed yourself because your view counts were down? It's like, no, I don't, because that's not a real thing. But it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Because the truth does not matter. What matters to a lot of people is how many YouTube essays we can make debating whether or not your favorite content creator has good vibes or not. The actual interpersonal relationship in that moment from fucking 5-10 years ago is completely inconsequential. What is more important is the narrative that you can lead on Reddit. And people would openly rather just continue along with a falsehood than to actually understand what the truth is. And when faced with the direct evidence that their narrative is incorrect, they just double down on it. Anyway. When I watched you debate that drama tuber looking for a video, I knew you were right, but disappointed you engaged with this guy who's clearly farming for a YouTube video. The guy had to take a break to watch his own YouTube video mid-debate for talking points, but I was still mad at you for engaging with the drama YouTuber. Yeah. Also, when that girl came up to you about Pepsi or whatever, people thought you were so triggered, but you weren't. Clip Chimps trying to make something more than it is. Yeah. People absolutely would rather... People would absolutely rather have their own preconceived biases reinforced than to develop a better understanding of what the fuck's going on. That's it.
Marching in the streets of Paris, weren't they, about this article? Do you hear the people sing? We demand IGN France acknowledge that Eve from Stellar Blade on the PS5 was based on Korean model Shin Jae-eun. Even though they did. Now, the third way that YouTubers got into this discourse was by copying each other's videos. Like, look, he's just nicked his thumbnail and all. Some of these videos were commentary videos, you see. And by commentary videos, I of course mean they watched a video that someone else made and paused it occasionally and said, yeah.
Yeah. And I always find this to be kind of a stupid take because this is the model the game is based on, being motion captured here. It is very much based on real women.
That's big-time internet streamer Asmongold putting his personal touch on this discourse by sitting in the corner there and watching this other video on the channel Yellow Flash Productions, which covers both the tweet from Mark Kern and the article on boundingintocomics.com. The video of Asmongold's stream posted on the channel Asmongold TV got
8 layers of falsehood with something of no material importance whatsoever, by the way. Because the other side of the story is the patently unserious nature of this conversation. What if IGN actually was mad at the titties? Who fucking cares? You know what I mean? Who cares? Even if it was 100% correct, even if Grums was absolutely correct that like they were seething, who gives a shit? Just play the fucking game, dumbass. Why can't you just enjoy the game on its own? Why do you have to imagine some woke libtards being owned somewhere, okay? In fucking France, of all places, too. You know, a nation state known for its unique approach to feminism in general. I think that a lot of these gamers would recognize that they are a lot closer to the average French person in their understanding of sexualized, fantasies than they think that they have disagreements on, okay?
nearly 1 million views, more than 10 times the views of the video he was watching, but don't feel bad about that. Asmongold is just watching someone read out something someone else said about something they didn't do any research about. It is lazy bastards all the way down today. Lazy and liars as well. Let's take a look at a couple of these thumbnails. This one from the channel Mannix has a fake quote from an IGN Twitter account that says, in all caps, "Don't buy this game." This one also shows up in the thumbnails for videos on other channels, like these ones. There's also fake review scores in there, pretending IGN gave the game a score of 3 out of 10, which, I mean, it wasn't even out yet, and they hadn't reviewed it. They gave it a 7 when they did review it. The channel Dread Roberts has a video with a thumbnail that proclaims, "They want this game to die," in all caps, along with the quote, "She's a whore."
Like, this is so unserious, dude, imagine. Is this the peak of your political movement? Like, even if this was real, even if IGN wanted this game to die, really? That's what you want to associate with? On your deathbed, that's what you're going to remember? The conquest you engage in? The fact that it's not real and it's simply just like right-wing hysteria that people associated with and people just like ran along with makes it even worse. But also, even if this was a real thing, even if IGN actually had come out and was like, "I fucking hate this game, I hope it dies," treating this like your own personal 9/11 is just like, how bored are you?
Or under the IGN logo, which, well, IGN didn't say that, of course. Even the IGN France article that criticised Eve's design was broadly positive about the other aspects of the game. I mean, it doesn't make sense, does it? If IGN wanted to hurt the sales of Stellar Blade, why would they attack it in only a single paragraph of an otherwise favourable preview that only went up on their French website? Like, if there's some plot from IGN to destroy Stellar Blade, it's being expressed in the most obscure, contradictory way possible. So why are these videos pretending that IGN did trash the game and try to kill it? Well, for clicks, obviously. They want a big culture war Gamergate moment so badly that they're willing to play pretend to try to get one started. And this is one of the interesting things to me today. It's the yearning for a lost glory, I suppose. Watching through some of these videos reminded me of those Imperial Japanese soldiers living in the jungle who didn't realise World War II was over. These are the bedraggled remnants of the Gamergate army, bravely fighting on long past the point where anyone else cares at all. I think we need to get in touch with Davis Arini or someone so we can formally give them the order to stand down. One thing that stood out to me watching these videos was that the video makers would often make very confident predictions about both 1, Stellar Blade being a great game deserving of very high scores, and 2, the gaming press giving it low scores when it does come out. Watching one of these videos, I heard a guy say he was sure Stellar Blade would get low review scores, quote, "nothing close to the higher scores it deserves." Deserves. And this was posted in a video before Stellar Blade was released. Like, they're already sure it's a great game. It's already deserving of high scores before they've even played it, simply by virtue of what it represents. Now, it would be unfair of me to dole out criticisms of people speaking prematurely about a game they haven't played if I myself then went on to talk about said game having not played it. So I played the entirety of Stellar Blade. I streamed it on my Twitch channel, which I'll link in the description. So out of a sense of due diligence and to prove I actually did play the game, I'm going to review Stellar Blade now for too long. We'll get to the character designs later on, but for now I'll say that whatever criticisms can be made about Eve's character design, there are other characters in Stellar Blade who deserve those same criticisms, but to a much greater degree. If Eve's design is a little uncanny valley, then at the bottom of the uncanny valley is opened up an uncanny sinkhole, which contains neotenous monsters like Kaya and Lily, who make Eve look positively pedestrian by comparison. I'll give a spoiler warning here for Stellar Blade, of course, and I also have to give a spoiler warning here for the 2017 game Nier Automata, for reasons that will become very apparent very quickly. So okay, Stellar Blade. If I had to sum up Stellar Blade in a single word, I'd say it is derivative. As an example here, let's start out by giving an overview of the basic premise of the story. So, in Stellar Blade, you play as an android on a post-apocalyptic Earth that was devastated in an ancient war between what you're told was humanity and a race of alien invaders. Launching from a base in orbit of the planet, your mission is to fight and defeat the invaders on behalf of a humanity that, unbeknownst to you, no longer exists. Now, anyone who's played Platinum Games' 2017 release Nier Automata will right now be saying, hang on a minute, isn't that just the plot of Nier Automata? And yes, it is. The plot of Stellar Blade is strikingly similar to the plot of Nier Automata. The only difference is in the twist, really. In Nier, the twist is that the humanity you're fighting for is extinct, whereas in Stellar Blade, it's that the humanity you're fighting for actually turned into the monsters that you're fighting. So, it's not exactly the same, but it does give big can I copy your homework vibes. Being kind, we'll say it took very heavy inspiration.
Oh, wow. I can't believe we both spoiled a video game that you're never going to fucking play. And also another video game that is a classic that has been around for almost a decade. Shut the fuck up.
The story and world and many elements of the general design and gameplay and music especially are very derivative of Nier Automata, but Stellar Blade also borrowed from other places. The combat system takes inspiration from the likes of Sekiro and God of War. It's got the Souls-like enemy respawn mechanic. There are horror-styled sections that are trying to be like a Dead Space or a Resident Evil. There's a bit where you climb up a train car as it's falling off a cliff, which is literally just the first level of Uncharted 2. The last human city on this post-apocalyptic Earth is called Zion. Like in The Matrix, you might say, but no, this Zion is spelled with an X, so it's different. The people of Zion look up to an old, wise robot leader called Oracle. Kind of like the Oracle in The Matrix, you might say, but no, this is Oracle with no E, so it's different. The android residents of Zion are being stored in a bunch of pods to save power, so they're not generating power, they're in the pods to save power. So again, it's not exactly like The Matrix, but it is heavily reminiscent of The Matrix, yes. Now, there's nothing wrong with taking inspiration from other media, of course. Lots of great games wear their inspirations openly, but the problem with Stellar Blade is that it takes all of this stuff and smushes it together and then doesn't really do anything interesting with it. While a lot of the individual elements of Stellar Blade are fine by themselves, they don't ever really come together. The game feels more like a mix of various things the creators thought would be cool to put in a video game, rather than things that actually made sense to put in this video game. As an example, let's look at some enemy designs. So enemies in this game are called naytibas, which, if you know about the conflation of V's with B's in certain languages, including Korean, congratulations, you've spoiled yourself on the twist. Although it could be worse, in previews of the game, the naytibas were called natives. I know writers who use subtext, and they're all cowards. Anyway, the story with the naytibas is that humanity was in a war with an AI that wanted to replace them with androids, and in their desperation the humans turned to bioengineering to evolve humanity to the point where they could fight back. But these bioengineering experiments got out of control or something, and the humans lost their minds and turned into monsters. So that's the setup, but let's take a look at some of these enemy designs. Some of them look like big insects, some of them look like mutated statues, some of them look like squids, some of them look like robots. Some of them look like different sorts of robots with fleshy parts hanging out. Some of them look like giant beasts. Some of them look like organisms controlling a human host. Some of them look like zombies. Some of them look like fungal growths or spores or something. One boss looks like...
Look, it's not like a fucking game changer by any metric. It's just like a bubblegum ass game. A 5 out of 10 ass game. That's it. It looks nice. There's sexy ladies in it. And ultimately... it's the same old shit. Which leads me to believe that a lot of people simply did not like Horizon Zero Dawn, not because of its repetitive gameplay, but because the main character wasn't fuckable enough. Like, that's it. That's like the... This is a worse game than Horizon Zero Dawn, but with sexier characters. So gamers love this game, but hate Horizon Zero Dawn. So it must be, you know, the fuckability metrics not actually hitting for a lot of these horn dogs, which once again blows my mind that people are not more embarrassed to openly state that. The fact that these people are not embarrassed to state that is crazy. Gene Park liked the game. Yeah, I mean, I'm saying it's a bubblegum game. Like, it's not a bad game. It's just not, you know, moving the needle in a direction. That's the point. Gene also loved Horizon. I personally am not a big fan of like killing mechanic enemies, which is why I you know, while I played the first Horizon game, I didn't actually play the second. Like Zero Dawn, I didn't really play. And it just wasn't like as compelling, and I feel like it's very repetitive. That's it.
Like this, another looks like this, another looks like this, and so on.
Or
There's no
not. Oh, sorry, Zero Dawn. I finished. I loved Zero Dawn, even though it still had the same issues. I meant the second game. Which is what was it called? Forbidden West, yeah.
theme to these enemies. They seem like a collection of designs inspired by other games and media. Bayonetta, Half-Life,